What's up? How's it going? Oh, hey, now I see Darlene, you made it to the YouTube channel. Yeah, thanks for your patience. I was actually just getting some stuff organized and making sure the channels. I'm trying to drive a lot of Instagram traffic to the YouTube channel, since I think there's a lot of people that follow me on Instagram but don't follow my YouTube channel. So what I'm trying to do is see if I can get everybody, or the majority of people, to get on my YouTube page, because that is eventually where I want to be frequent, active, and kind of put a lot of my focus on for the long form content like this anyway. So yeah, good to see you on here again, and good to get your positive energy and your feedback. I wanted to talk about something that it's funny, kind of like the thumbnail that I put on there, right? What I learned as a 10x business coach. There's a few things that I can talk about, but what I really wanted to... Hey, how's it going, Brickell? Thanks for joining. Again, for everybody who's following on Instagram, if you do not follow my YouTube page, please do that, because I want to eventually start focusing on that more than anything, and I'll have more consistency and frequency and kind of solidify days I'm going to be doing these live streams. And plus, it's an easier way for me to consolidate the chats right on my screen, all of it right on one screen, so I can focus in one area, which is really what I want to do. I think that'll be pretty ideal. But what I want to talk about is the one thing that I want to talk about that I learned as a 10x business coach was, at least for this video, for the next 30 minutes or so maybe, is the way I learned how they sell. The way that they sell, the way they taught me how to sell, which is weird because I was already in sales. I was, I had my own company, I had my own construction company. I still have it. I've had it for 6 years. At that time, I was almost a couple years in on it. There's just a lot to be said about this, and I just scratched down some notes literally right now, right before I started getting in here, so I had some context to this. But one thing you might have heard me talk about is that the 10x community and Grant and all of them, the way they sell is like a middle school type approach. It's a middle school behavior, and I'm going to break that down into what I mean by that. A lot of you may have heard me say that before, and so I want to give a little clarity into that and kind of break down what I mean by the middle school approach. So there's a lot of peer pressure, there's a lot of fear mongering, there's a lot of bullying, right? All three of those aspects is like, it reminds me of middle school. Like when you're in middle school, you're dealing with a bunch of immature people, right? They're kids. They're growing up. They're learning who they want to be. There's a lot of people that are not very, kind. There's a lot of those three main aspects you'll see in a middle school or a setting with a lot of kids, right? Because that's just part of growing up, right? And it's funny to me noticing that is literally how, Grant's not the only one. There's a lot of people I call out that operate the same way, but it's quite fascinating to me that they literally are using such an immature way of selling, such an immature way of getting people in their atmosphere. There we go. Sorry, I was making sure this live stream was going on. Looks like I had to just click on it. But yeah, it's such an immature way of actually doing business, and I'll break that down. So you got the peer pressure, right? And by the way, I bought into all this stuff. So it can happen to the best of people. It can happen to someone like me. It can happen to someone who's like a completely successful individual, already making multi-millions, maybe even a billionaire. I was in the room, and to answer your question, Brickell, I don't know if I can drop it in the chat, but if you click on my links in the YouTube, on my Instagram page, the YouTube channel's in there. And I just did a story post where I posted the actual link too. And it looks like someone did you the favor of putting the link there as well, so I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't know if you can click that link in the Instagram chat, but if you can, go ahead. If not, check out the story post I did. There's a button I put. You just click it and it'll take you right to it. So thanks for the assist, guys. I appreciate that. Going back to what I was saying, let's talk about the peer pressure part, the not fitting in, the FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. That's one tactic that's applied for people that are not familiar with Grant or his atmosphere, or how he does things. That's very much a real thing that's going on there. It happened to me, like I said, when they start saying things like, hey, you need to do this, you should do this, or this is going to happen, or this is not going to happen for you, right? It's all preying on your fear. It's all mind manipulation. It's fear mongering. And again, going back to the middle school mentality and the middle school approach, in my opinion, a lot of fear is in a immature, when you're immature and you're thinking very immaturely, there's a lot of fear tactics that come with that. There's obviously the unintelligent person, but for the person that wants to get something done, or the person that wants an outcome, or really wants something to happen, or wants something from you, they're going to use fear tactics. It's a very immature way of behaving. And it's crazy to me looking at that now, that is how these guys are pitching their services. They're literally putting the fear in you, fear of not being a part of this community. That there's just so much to it, right? Like, hey, if you want to be around someone who's successful, hey, I talked to somebody recently, and she was sharing a story with me about how her and her husband got involved with Grant, and she was just saying that they were hounding her so much, upselling her all the time, always calling her, upselling her for the next thing. And she explained to me one of the times where they got a call from one of the 10X teammates, and they were trying to sell her the, I don't know what you call it, where you go hang out with Grant and Elena on the Bahamas island for $25,000 or something like that. And the way they presented it to her is like, hey, Grant, views you as a friend. Grant and Elena consider you to be a friend, and they want to personally invite you to come stay with them at the Bahamas. And she was like, oh, really? Like, she was mentioning to me her viewpoint on that, and she was saying, my friends don't charge me $25,000 to hang out with them, so it's kind of weird. And so she was like, yeah, I don't think so. And so they started, obviously bargaining and saying, well, how about 15,000? How about, we take off, we cut it down and shave some of that money off. And they started using these fear tactics, and one of the tactics they used was like, well, you're going to be in proximity with a billionaire. You're going to be literally side by side. You're going to be able to have a conversation with the billionaire. And so they're like putting this this fear of not being able to talk to a billionaire. They're like building his value up, right? Building his status up. By the way, that's all self-proclaimed. Like, I'm pretty certain the dude is not a billionaire. Like, whether he or not he has $1 billion in assets is questionable. But I think it's all bullshit in my opinion. And it's all meant to actually raise his status. What's up, Oliver? How you doing? What's up, Mark Cox? How you doing? Appreciate that. I was just going over about one of the things I noticed as far as the 10X community goes and how they actually sell. And since everybody seems to like that story, everybody seems to take interest in that experience I had. So I'm going to be talking about it. So yeah, exactly. And so they're sitting there telling her like, yeah, you're going to be in the, you're going to get to hang out with a billionaire, right? And that's all status that's been built. So she obviously didn't go, thank God, but it doesn't matter. She had already spent, her and her husband already spent thousands of dollars. She said, probably accumulated $100K in spending with the guy and really got nothing out of it. Really got no, one of the main things that they pitched to her was that they were going to teach her how to do real estate. She didn't know anything about real estate. And so they were pitching to her like, hey, we're going to show you how to make money at real estate. She didn't know what that meant. Well, when she got into it, she found out that she wasn't in real estate at all, so she knew nothing. She was starting out bare bones, but she took an interest in real estate because obviously they were like, you can make money, you can make passive income, you can be financially free. And I talk about this quite a bit as far as paying attention, being more mentally free, and putting more focus on being mentally free rather than the financial freedom and the passive income. I feel like there needs to be more of an emphasis on that. I'll do a whole nother podcast just on that alone because a lot of people are vibing with that message and understand exactly what I'm talking about. But Yeah, hey, what's up, Mark? Good to see you on here, man. And so, yeah, what I'll say is there's the peer pressure, right? So they're peer pressuring her, literally like just trying to, I'm talking, and for those of you who are just jumping on the channel now, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, I'm talking about middle school tactics to sell people, having a middle school mentality and an immature way of selling people. That is something not only I learned that a lot of people are doing, but that's something I learned that people do when I was working as a 10X business coach. It's quite mind-blowing, actually. And so you got the peer pressure, the not fitting in, the fear of missing out. All that stuff is like, it reminds me of like smoking a joint for the first time with a bunch of kids, right? It's like, yeah, man, trust me, you'll be fine. If you want to be cool, hit this joint so you can be as cool as us. It's like, seriously, middle school behavior. So you got that going on. Then you got the fear-based part of it, which it kind of just goes hand in hand with that, right? Like, people are putting the fear in you because of, if you don't take action on this, either something's going to happen that's bad, or the things that you want to happen in a good sense are not going to happen to you. So it's like you can't win for losing with that whole fear-based mentality. Then you got the bullying. And I'll tell you how I've noticed that. How's it going, Lawn Care to a Million and Debbie? Love seeing all these people support and understand that, what I'm talking about, and seeing the value in that. I really appreciate that. And Pleasant Cookies, how's it going? So yeah, you got the bullying part. I want to explain how this goes. So the bullying part in sales is not being talked about enough. Bullying people comes in the form of either making fun of the fact that your bank account's low, or leading you to believe that your value is less than because you're not out of the middle class, or you're not making over $400,000 a year or something like that. When in reality, most of the economy, last I checked, was close to 80% of us were living in the middle class, right? That's the majority of the United States. So most of us, how's it going, Tammy? Thanks for joining. So most of us have been in the middle class, right? I would consider myself still in the middle class. I worked up as a carpenter, making a minimum wage, well, not a minimum wage, but not a crazy amount of money. And so that's one way that they bully you, is they make fun of your bank account, and they say, hey, you're operating at low levels. If you're not making $400,000 a year, then you're not doing anything. You're a shame. You're disgraced. You're letting your family down. That's not enough to live. They really shame you when it comes to your bank account. And yeah, exactly, Brickell, you were saying that seems messed up. GC tag team, right? Does Elena need to be rescued? Yeah, I think Elena definitely needs to be. She doesn't want to be rescued. She's drinking the Kool-Aid just as much as everybody else, especially with the story I explained when she, that someone told me the story. One of my good friends was telling me that, she was blaming somebody for being raped. And so I'm sure you guys heard the story where I talked about that. Terrible. So yeah, she's very much in the Kool-Aid just like everybody else. So you got the blaming or the bullying part with the bank account. Then you got the fitness, right? People are blaming, people are making fun of people because they're fat, whatever. Like, you got that. You've heard me call Andy Elliott out and Wes Watson. Grant Cardone's no different. I've actually heard Grant Cardone make fun of people, or at least have people question themselves because of their body weight as well. So, and then you got the friends part of it, your network. This is a key factor, right, when it comes to bullying. What's up, Chris? How you doing, brother? Good to see you on the Facebook channel. For those of you who are just jumping on the Facebook and or Instagram page, what I'm really trying to do is funnel you guys to the YouTube channel. What I eventually want to do is not have to stream to all these platforms at once, or at least not Instagram at the same time. How's it going, Sean? Thank you so much for joining. So yeah, the goal is to get you to follow the YouTube channel, because that's really where I want to put all my focus. So anyways, if you don't see, whenever you get a chance, look for the YouTube link. It's on all my pages. It's in the bio. Just click that and subscribe to that, because I'm really going to start putting more focus into the YouTube page. But going back to the bullying part, let's talk about the friends part, the network, right? You guys heard the saying that they always try to promote, which is your network, your net worth is your network. You guys heard him say that? Anybody else say that? I don't believe that. You know, the other saying is, you know, you're the sum of the 5 friends that you hang out with. I don't believe that either. Look, there's a lot of people out here that are not doing a lot of the same things I'm doing, and they're still my friends. I don't think that they're, you know, I don't think that just because, and I don't hang out with them a lot. I don't like surround myself with them in proximity all the time. I'm not adopting their mindset or anything like that. But I think there's an insinuation that with people trying to bully you into, you know, separating from your friends because they're not making a bunch of money, they're not in entrepreneurial, if they're not doing business, let's put it that way. There's this suggestion that you need to separate from them. And then there's an unspoken suggestion that you should get in proximity with me. And so that's a bullying, that's, Christine, you don't even have 5 friends. I love that. That's funny. So yeah, and it's terrible because I'm like, really? You're trying to say we can't have friends that are into other things? You can't have friends that make less money to you than you, or you're gonna start thinking like them, or you're gonna start making the money they do, or you're gonna adopt a mindset. Look, the only reason why you should pay attention or be a little have awareness when you're hanging out with friends who are doing less than you or whatever, that's fine. All I'm saying is just know yourself, right? If you know yourself enough, you're not going to adopt someone else's mindset. You're not going to kind of model and mimic someone else's thought process. It's really when you don't know yourself that you start getting into a crazy space, which can go both ways. Hanging out with friends that you know, are not in alignment with you, or getting into a mentorship much like myself that was not in alignment with me either. And so I think one of the things is knowing. What's up, Chris? Jumping back and forth, going from Facebook to Instagram. Love that. Now you got to jump from the Instagram to the YouTube. Get you locked in on that. So yeah, it's a very real thing. So I talked about the peer pressure part of it, not fitting in, FOMO. You got that part. How's it going, Sean? I seen you made it over to the YouTube page. Welcome. There's the fear-based tactics, and then there's the bullying part of it, which is a huge factor. That's probably one of the key factors I've noticed in the similarities between, you know, guys like Grant, Andy Elliott, Wes Watson. There's a lot more of them out there, and I've called a few of them out as well. I'm starting to lose track. You know, I can't keep up. They're all over the place, which is why I've made it a huge mission of mine to try to outframe that. And obviously, it's going to take a lot of time. There's a machine here I'm up against, and you know, that's why it's going to take a lot of support from everybody who's on here. You know, people like you. I really appreciate that support, that positive encouragement, because it really is going to take people sharing my message, you know, supporting me, because it's such a big machine. It's such a big thing that's going on these days, and it's wrong. And that's the big thing, you know, deceiving people, manipulating people, you know, bullying, peer pressure, all these middle school tactics and selling. It's crazy, you know, interrogating, shaming, harassing for the follow-up. It's pretty wrong. And so I'm here to change that. It is going to take a while, and I'm pretty much just going to rally as many people who are in alignment with me on this as much as possible. So now I want to talk real quick before I get too carried away on this, because this is a huge thing I really wanted to touch base on and is kind of a result of the middle school approach of selling that I was talking about. That type of selling, that peer pressure, the fear mongering, the bullying, that only works on people who really don't know themselves enough to say no or care what people think about them. These guys are only successful because they're preying on people at a time where they have Whether it's a lot or a little bit, they got a little bit of uncertainty. They got a little bit of fear, a little bit of doubt, which is normal. A lot of people go through that at some point in their life. That's what happened to me. The reason Grant came in my life at the exact moment, and this is, this is what they look for. This is how scams work. This is how guys like that prey on people at the right moment. It was in the middle of COVID. The whole economy had uncertainty. Everybody was in retreat. Businesses didn't know what they were doing. I was actually doing well in that time. I wasn't stopping, and I was kind of expanding during that time because I knew that retreat wasn't the option. So it really is a big thing as far as me pointing out to people that it only works on people who kind of have that fear, doubt, and uncertainty. And it's okay to have that, but just know that you need to be hyper aware and hyper alert on people that seem. It's harder to sense the red flags when you start feeding that fear, that doubt, that uncertainty. And so now we're getting into a different topic, but it's relative to what I learned being in the 10X community. Right? Is that that stuff only works on people who don't know themselves or care too much about what other people think, because it's a very real thing that's happening. A lot of people are embarrassed to admit that they have a hard time saying no. That's a problem people have. Even the most confident of people, even the most people who seem very authentic or claim that they are very authentic, they struggle to say no. And for someone who struggles to say no, to come into a scenario where someone's pitching you something and framing it in such a way that like they have the answer for you. If you do this, I'm gonna fix this for you. If you do this, I'm gonna do that for you. I'm gonna take you to the promised land. It's a very dangerous game. It's a very dangerous moment for people. And I really, there's business I talk about, there's business I teach, right? Ethical ways to do business. And then there's just the spirituality part of it, the knowing yourself, right? The authenticity part of it, which it seems like more times than not, even if I start out having a business conversation, it always comes back to the personal part, the personal self-development part, the mentality part. And I think it's important for me to talk about that more, because out of all the people that I talk to, I promise it always comes back to that topic. Me talking about my moment where I let go. Like that seems to be, when I talk about letting go, that connects with people more than me talking about like, hey, I'm going to show you how to actually implement ethical ways to show your customers that you care, so you can grow your business the ethical way and feel good about it, right? That's a great topic too for business owners, but it seems like more times than not, talking about letting go is more impactful and it resonates with people more. So I think this whole knowing yourself, being true to yourself, getting honest with yourself, being vulnerable in a healthy way, being hyper aware, that's stuff that needs to be talked about more. The mental freedom I talk about, instead of focusing on financial freedom, start focusing on mental freedom more. These are things that need to be talked about a hell of a lot more, because it's just not being talked about enough. So I'm putting a lot of focus on that these days, because it seems to hit home. It seems to really resonate with a lot of people. And so I hear what people are saying, and so I lean into that stuff. That's the whole reason why I'm talking about my experience with Grant Cardone. It's not that I have an agenda to talk about that or go after him, or I haven't moved on, or I'm hating, or whatever all these people are saying about me. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm here to help other people. And if sharing my story is part of helping other people, then so be it. I'm going to share my story. Like, that's part of it. People need to understand what's happening. How's it going, Jay Chen, Home and Garden, all you guys that just popped in here, I appreciate that. Hey, if you just popped in here, what I was telling everybody else on the Instagram, that is, if you haven't jumped onto my YouTube channel and subscribed to that, please do that, because what I'm trying to do is really start focusing on the YouTube channel more, so I don't have to stream multiple platforms. But yeah, I hope everybody understands what I'm doing and what I'm saying when I'm talking about that those middle school selling tactics only work on people who don't know themselves, who have a hard time saying no, and care what other people think. It's a very real thing, and it can be an embarrassing thing to talk about for some people. But I promise you, once I let go of that, once I let go of the embarrassing part, it's not fun for me to talk about, yeah, I spent over a couple $100,000 just with Grant. I've made other investments, and it was, didn't pay off. I didn't get an ROI. I didn't get anything he promised. It didn't work. It was 3 years of my life. It's not fun for me to talk about, but I realize it impacts people. And so a lot of other people don't have that's why no one really talks. It's one of many reasons why no one talks about stuff like that. It's because it's embarrassing, and they don't want to look like they made a mistake. But there's so much power in that. There is a lot of power. There's a lot of mental freedom that comes with that. Is admitting, like, shit, yeah, I made a mistake. That was not very smart, or that didn't work out the way I thought it was going to be. Or I was in a community that was deceptive, or teaching me the wrong things to do. It's not very fun for people to get that vulnerable and talk about embarrassing things like that. So, but I encourage that because it does play a part in that mental freedom I talked about. So, the last thing I want to talk about on this topic, after I wet my beak here. The last thing is that it happens to the best of people. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I feel like a broken record sometimes. It's funny, I've been doing a lot of podcasts. I just did one the other day. I did one today. I got another one scheduled. I scheduled one today for next week. And then I've been on 5 in the last month, I feel like, or 2. But I see a lot of the same comments, and one of the comments I seen over and over and over was, yeah, exactly, I can't read your name, Millie. I'm guessing it's Millie, maybe not. Millie Vanilli, oh my God, now I see it's Millie Vanilli. Blame it on the rain. All right, there's hidden value and you will get a return. 100%, yeah, exactly. And that's exactly, I maybe elaborate on that so I understand and making sure I'm agreeing with the right thing. I don't want to say, yeah, you're right, and you're talking about something completely different. So go ahead and pop in on there and just elaborate on that a little bit more. What is up, Chris, I believe. How you doing, brother? Man, I've been trying to reach out to you, brother. I haven't heard back from you, so I'm wondering if you're ghosting me. Hopefully not, but join my YouTube channel because I'm trying to drive traffic from this to the YouTube channel and get people on there so that I can focus on that as I build the podcast out a little bit more, because it's going to turn into more professional podcasts as I get dialed in on that. But good to see some familiar icons, if you will. But yeah, back to what I said. One of the comments I'm getting on there is that greed is why I got sucked into an atmosphere that I didn't want to be in, why I became a person I didn't want to, and why I did things that were not in alignment with me. Out of all the reasons why that happened to me, greed was at the very, very, very bottom, I promise. And it's important for me to point that out because I was in the room. I've been to so many networking events, and I've been to some big ones, man, and I've been in the room with some massively successful people, whether they were on the stage or in the crowd with me. Some people that were just killing it, already doing, like, I was surprised to see some people like, dang, what is he doing? I didn't know that he was, a fan of Grant and the 10X, right? And in seeing that and in looking back on that, I can clearly see, and remembering the look on their face and the way they were idolizing Grant as well. Now, there's a difference between supporting somebody and idolizing them. This was straight idolizing. Trust me, there's a huge difference, and it's hard to explain unless you're actually in it and you can sense it. And you'll know what I mean with just the energy. So what I wanted to point out is that in seeing people like that, such a high caliber of people in the same community, drinking the same Kool-Aid, doing the same idolizing with people who were maybe middle class, paid the lower ticket cost to get in the room, I realized it can happen to the best of them. It doesn't matter how successful you are, how successful you're not. Doesn't matter if you've been in business for 20 years, 30 years. Doesn't mean if a person that doesn't even have a business and you're just getting started. It can happen to the best of them. The best people can get deceived, can get manipulated, can have all these things happen to them. The peer pressure can still work on somebody who seems to have it all. The fear-based tactics, the fear-mongering can happen to the best people still. The bullying, making fun of people's bank account, their fitness, the friends they hang out with, that can happen to the best of people as well. So when I say that greed didn't really play much of a factor in me getting involved with that community, I mean it. It was literally more of just that getting in proximity and getting in the room with people. And I fed on that for me personally. Yeah, sure, there was a little bit of I want to make more money, but it wasn't about the money for me. When you get into it, you realize that you are getting brainwashed into focusing on the money. And that's another thing I learned. It's like he's not teaching me how to scale my business ethically. He's teaching me how to focus on money and chase money and focus on outcomes and do things to get the money at all costs. And at the time, it didn't seem unethical, the strategies that I was taught and things like that. But as I broke away and I was enlightened, I realized it was very unethical. And then, like I said, it goes back to that whole deception. I realized it was all of those things. Deception, manipulation, interrogation, harassing, shaming, bullying. It is all of that. And then that's why I realized, dang, this is a middle school way. This is such an immature way of doing business. It just felt weird. And the reason it felt weird is because it's immature. And it's not the way someone that has a real good heart, someone that actually cares about people, someone who's mature, it doesn't feel good for the people that are that way, right? If you're a mature person and you care about people, and then you start realizing they're teaching you this stuff and it starts feeling weird, that's the reason why. You're like, why does this feel weird? Why does this feel immature? And that's exactly why. It's because it's taking you back to a time where those things were relevant in your life when you were a kid, and you've matured past that, and now they're trying to pull you back into immaturity. It's crazy when you think about it that way. All right, let me catch up with these comments. Millie Vanilli, you're saying you spent thousands and years on courses, and you don't feel the money or time was wasted, even though they may not have paid straight off. Keep going. Okay, yeah, well, if the courses were, so again, it depends on what you learned, right? If you learn something ethical, so and to your point, right, we can get real technical with that. Okay, sure, I learned what not to do in Grant's community and what he taught me. I learned what not to do. So in that regard, I got value. That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for real value. I was looking for what they claimed I was going to get. That was growing your business. They never really claimed, we're going to show you how to grow your business ethically. We're going to show you how to care for your customers. We're going to talk about customer service. None of that's ever talked about. None of that is ever talked about. None of it was once brought up in the entire 3+ years I was there. All the times I was at 10X headquarters, all the events I went to, never once did they talk about customer service, focusing on bringing value to the people. Sometimes in a small sense, it was kind of structured like you should. Here's what I mean. It's kind of deceptive in the way that they would say hey, it's your duty to make sure these people do business with you, because if not, they're going to go do business with somebody else and they're going to have a bad experience. And I used to buy into that. And now I don't believe that, because I'm look, it's not up to me to force somebody because I think I have the best product and the best service. I may not have the best thing. Just because I think it's the best doesn't mean it's the best for you. Doesn't mean it's the best for everybody. It has to be a good fit. And I think the more ethical way to approach business now is look, I have this. I have a product and a service. I'm not saying you should do this with me. I'm not saying you need to. What I'm saying is this is what I have. And if you're interested, it's up for you to discern whether or not this is a good fit for you or not. If you need to think about it, think about it. Like, that is the way to approach business, not the way to push and press. So anyways, I went on a side tangent, but going back to what you were saying, Milli Vanilli, why does that sound funny to say that? Going back to what you said, yes, if there's something you learned that is not paying off immediately, of course it is going to pay off in the future, 100%. There's a lot of things that I've learned in the past that immediately didn't give me an ROI, but then did give me an ROI later on and played a role in my life. So I understand what you mean by that. But yeah, when you're learning deceptive stuff, you're learning middle school approach to selling, that's not going to ever be helpful, in my opinion. The only thing that's helpful with that is me learning that that's what's going on. And so now that actually helps me in my calling and my mission to share with people that, like, hey, I'm trying to change all that in the industry. This is what's happening, and I'm trying to change that. And so, yeah, hopefully that elaborates on, and I appreciate you elaborating on that too. Brickell, you were saying, yeah, it happens to the best of us. Pace Morby told a story that he and others went to a GC invite only investor event and were scammed out of $10 million each by another attendee. He didn't blame GC, but okay, that's interesting because, I haven't done enough, looking into Pace Morby. There's some people that I've heard stories about, and, I've heard some bad things about Pace Morby. I haven't seen any red flags, and then there's people like Gary Vee where I was like, hey, I think he's got a good message. He feels like he's got a good heart. He's telling people he's a lot like me in the sense that I'm trying to point out, like, you have everything you need inside of you. You don't need to go chase it in other people. So he has that message to you, but then people are like, dude, he's such a scammer too with the whole NFT thing. So I'm like, I didn't know anything about that. So sure, I'm not looking in. It's hard to look into every single one of these. So what I'll do is probably just pay a closer attention to guys like Pace Morby and Gary Vee and see if there's any red flags, because I can tell you right now, when I pay attention, it's really hard to get the deception by me. It's really hard for me to be blinded. It's hard for me to be blinded to the obvious things like that and the unethical stuff. So, but yeah, I believe that story. And again, whether it's a guy like Pace Morby or someone else like the woman I mentioned who shared her story about them trying to con her into going to the Bahamas with Grant. It's coming out. I've talked about this. I get calls every single day. I get messages every single day now for people explaining to me how they've been conned, scammed, ripped off, whatever, by that organization. And so it's a very real thing that's happening. Is it coincidence? No. Are they all haters? No. Some of these people, I can tell, I've hopped on some calls with them. They're really good-hearted people, and they're not lying. Like, I can tell when someone's lying about something. So anyways, this whole live stream was for a couple of reasons. One, like I said, to kind of get people aware about my YouTube channel, make sure I'm getting more people on that, because I don't think they're aware that I'm actually doing this and trying to get like a more consistent and frequent podcast setup going. So if there's any feedback, actually, let me just wrap it up. Let's just kind of bring it together as far as what I went over. So what I was really talking about here is what I noticed in the 10X community and how they sold. It was the middle school approach to selling. I talked about the peer pressure, not fitting in, the fear of missing out, the fear-based mongering, the fear-mongering, and then the bullying. Bullying and making fun of your bank account, making fun of your fitness, making fun of your friends you hang out with. That's all part of it too. And then how I also really pointed out that not only does it happen to the best of people, but that only works, that middle school sales approach only works on people who either don't know themselves or just can't seem, or the people, I think I broke up there, or the people that just have a really hard time saying no, or also people that care what other people think about them. I know it sounds silly, but the people that care what others think about them will buy something that they don't want to buy. I've done it. Again, I'm not embarrassed to talk about this stuff. Like, I can clear, because I'm not that person now. Like, I know myself so well. I tell people no all the time. I get on a sales call now and I tell them right out the gate, like, hey dude, just so you know, I'm not buying anything. So I'm here to create a relationship with you. You good with that? And like, you can see the reaction when you try this. If you ever get on a sales call, somebody do that. You're going to feel the energy real quick. You're going to find out if they just want something from you or if they actually care about you. And there's red flags that you can pay attention to after that. I've done this several times and I could just feel the energy shift where they're just like, the wind out of their sails, it gets taken out of the wind gets taken out of their sail. There we go. But yeah, go ahead and try that, because I promise you're going to find out really quick who actually cares about you and what their agenda is and why they're even on the phone with you in the first place. For me, I'm trying to create a relationship. I don't ever get on a call to sell somebody something like on a first time conversation. Like, you can't even jump into my landing page and buy something. Like, the only thing you can do is set up a call with me to talk. It's not about the money. It's about relationships for me. So anyways, I hope people got, I hope you guys got value out of what I'm talking about. The fact that the live call will be, or the live stream will be on, posted. Really cool. Like I said, as I kind of dial this in. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, thanks for the feedback, Tammy. Oh, you had that recently? That's so funny. So you had an experience like that recently, I'm assuming. Tammy, if you haven't got on the YouTube, and anybody else on Instagram, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, go to my story post. There's a link on there. You just click on it and then you can subscribe. If you missed that story, you don't get to it in time, the link is in my bio as well. So make sure you join that, because I am going to start focusing more on the YouTube channel. But what I would like is, if anybody, even after this, if you guys have any feedback for me on how I can make this stream better, please let me know. Any feedback is good feedback. Let me know, like, hey, you should do this. Hey, you know what'd be cool? You should try this. Or, you know what I seen someone else do that really catches my attention? Try this out. If you guys have any feedback like that, give it to me. Post it in the comments afterwards. I'll be checking it afterwards, and I'd really be interested in checking it out so that I can improve, because this is the first time I've done podcasting since the beginning of COVID. I was doing podcasts back then, but things have changed so much, and so I'm essentially starting over. But I'm super excited, because obviously you guys can tell that I like talking. At some point here, I want to get some guests, because I love talking to people more than anything. As far as a dialogue and a conversation, I feel like I'm talking to people now anyway, which is really cool. That's why I like the live chat. I wasn't going to do podcasting unless I can get a live chat feature, because it's real important to me that I feel like I'm connecting with people who are viewing it. So anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. Keep your eyes peeled for more topics, more conversations, more frequency as I kind of dial this in and I smooth out the rough edges getting going on this podcast thing. So I appreciate every single one of you on here supporting me, giving me all that positive feedback and giving me that positive energy. It means a lot to me. So I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. All right. Have a good rest of your evening. Take care.